BIM 360. How's DPR been, and you guys have been handling your transition?
Yes, I think we were pretty well prepared, kind of like Jacob, for handling this situation. I mean, a lot of our projects, we have team members located all over the place, right? I mean, one project I'm working on now, it's in Richmond, design teams from Texas. We have other design team members in Boston, DC, some trade partners from Utah. So everybody's all over the place working remotely to begin with, right? So from a VDC standpoint, we were kind of already there. I mean, everybody's all about virtual meetings now, but we've been designing and constructing virtually for years. So from that standpoint, we were pretty well equipped to be able to handle this situation anyhow. We had the tools in place, the processes in place. And fortunately, too, we weren't burdened from a DPR standpoint by any VPNs or VDI or anything like that. We've gone completely to the cloud, fortunately. The only thing we have to use a VPN for is to access license for some Autodesk software, some other software types. But it's been overall a pretty smooth transition, I would say. So we were fortunate in that sense.
Awesome. Any complications or maybe, hang-ups that you guys have had as you have all kind of gone to the home workplace, as most of us have?
Sure. Yeah, certainly challenges. I think the biggest one, at least for me anyhow, is just a bandwidth standpoint. I live out in the woods and only have DSL, so downloading a Revit model is just out of the question unless I have a week time to spare. But we've had some challenges with that, folks around Richmond anyways. But we've been able to get past that, and BIM 360 has helped out a lot. We've actually been able to get more people access to the models, to constructability type reviews, because there's been certain folks that they're not on site, they don't have access to their normal work activities, so they do have a little bit more capacity. So we've taken advantage of that and used tools like BIM 360 Docs and the model viewers and BIM 360 Glue through Navisworks to just get people in there and say, hey, you're not out in the field, so can you spend some time just walking through the model, or we'll walk you through it for that matter, and just help us to identify some potential problems, and then we can collaborate a little bit more and, be a little more proactive on that piece. But, a challenge then has been for folks trying to get Navisworks working remotely with them to download and install that software, and getting through home networks and all of that has been somewhat of a challenge. And from a training standpoint as well, obviously you can't just hand somebody a tool and expect them to know what to do with it. So we've had training programs in place and been transitioning those to virtual online trainings and figuring out ways we can get more folks engaged and help them to use this time so that when they're working from home to, again, be more proactive and more model-based.
Absolutely. And I think, once again, utilizing Microsoft Teams is we found, and personally I found, a wonderful platform in order to share with many people across the office, right?
Absolutely.
Well, it looks like we have over 100 people on the call, which is fantastic. We love to hear that. So we'd love to see where all of you guys are here from today. So we have a poll coming up. You guys can answer that on where you are today. If you are in a different location, unfortunately, in the poll, you can't put in a input. So if you have a different place or a state or country that is not listed, we'd love to hear in the comments where you guys are calling in from today. So please take a minute to answer that, and then we'll share up the results, get an idea of where everybody is. Once again, Jacob is in North Carolina. I'm in Washington, D.C., and Roy is in Richmond, Virginia. So we're all pretty close, but in different states and obviously in districts. So Alrighty, let's see where everybody is today. Once again, if you did other, we would love to see in the comments where you guys are.
Lima.
Oh, looks like we have someone from Peru. That's fantastic. About a quarter of us from Maryland. Only 6% from DC. Where's my district love? Good percent. Most of us from Virginia, 26%. 22 from North Carolina, and 9% from other states not listed. That's actually quite fantastic. And I'm guessing that outside of the U.S., that would be our Peru support. Go Peru. That's fantastic. All right. Sorry for that interruption, Roy. So other transitional pitfalls or obstacles that you guys have come up with? I know absolutely that training people, especially considering that everything is different now, right? It's like, hey, guess what? You have to open up your model in a completely different way. You have to go over here and you have to click on that, and then you have to come down here and you have to click there. And translating all of this information can be quite difficult, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, you mentioned Teams has and been helpful in that regard. So just being able to jump on a quick call with somebody, and it's a lot easier to bring up a model and just share your screen with somebody and kind of walk them through, hey, this is what we're looking at. Are you seeing the same thing? And it's interesting now to see everybody really taking to that. And I'm pretty excited once all of this is over and we're back in the office that hopefully this continues and people maintain this kind of reliance, or at least some of this enlightenment that, hey, I can use all these tools and use the models for these other workflows, and they're now seeing the advantages of it. So, if there's one good thing that comes out of all of this, it's going to be pushing more folks towards a model-based workflow, which, looking at the bright side of things is going to be beneficial moving forward. I think just some other challenges too that we've had, we immediately got everybody on Teams, and that was the good part. But beyond just the technology standpoint, with construction too, and just some of the changes that are a part of that, right? Like we've had a kind of an increased pressure maybe to do a better job of planning ahead and then tracking versus that plan. So now having these tools and BDC and BIM again has been pushed to the forefront in a lot of folks' minds of a way that, hey, we've known that we can do a lot of these processes and use it to our advantage for a long time, but now it's kind of larger emphasis has been put on it, right? So from things like just using the model to schedule better and have some plans, like we're using Assemble now more than ever to sequence our work and to have a stronger plan in place. And from a virtual meeting now, we've got all of our folks from the guys that are still out in the field to our design teams, trade partners, and then DPR coming together around this Assemble model, just looking at, like steel sequencing, for example, and all collaborating around this single platform, and then translating that back, kind of a cool workflow there from Assemble to BIM 360 with everybody housing their models within the cloud, and then DPR, we can pull that information and extract it out, kind of do some sequencing and work packaging within Assemble, and then pushing that out even more, and then kind of using Teams as the go-to between all of these different platforms. I think somebody mentioned in the chat, there's so many of them out there, not sure what's going on. And, Teams has now became this really the replacement for the office almost. So the conversations that you would walk over to somebody's desk and have that 5-minute chat
right.
is on Teams, which is cool.
Absolutely. Would you say that it's more of people contact you and you help them as needed, or are you publishing content on Teams, PDFs or images, any kind of documentation on there to kind of a step by step of how to do certain tasks?
Sure, absolutely. It's a little bit of both, when folks reach out, but we try to be a little more proactive, and we had a lot of that content. We're in the process of moving a lot of it from a more classroom-based type training to online self-paced training sessions. And so we escalated that and accelerated.
Is that in-house? You guys are doing that in-house? Or are you using Linda or other platforms?
Mm-hmm. It's mostly in-house, some external training.
Awesome. So we want to hear from you guys. How do you guys leverage training in-house? So we have a poll, hopefully it's ready here, on how you guys are learning while outside of the office, and whether that's getting content internally or getting content online, watching videos, whatever it might be. Definitely want to hear from you on that. Because I know that it's definitely, like we've been talking about, an extremely huge challenge. I know that, there's definitely firms lucky enough to be hiring at this point. And how do you onboard somebody that you can't see face to face, right? How are you giving them orientation and, bringing them up to speed on some of their internal processes, where content lives, all of this good stuff, if you aren't with them. I know that Smith Group, we have an internal kind of, we call innovations resource that we upload content to. You can register for live classes or listen to the recorded sessions. And of course, in addition to that, we have documents and procedures outlined in different forms. Like you said, Roy, we're transitioning from different, having that on SharePoint to being on Teams and other resources that we can actually get to outside of being on VPN and other things. So I don't know about you guys, but there should be a poll, but I see Christopher Alexander really big on my screen, which is awesome. Hey, Christopher, I love your background. Hopefully that's the winner. I would choose that. Where's my stapler,
Pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. All right. So let's see here. Now it's me, really big. All right. So looks like Christopher Alexander, you have a question on sharing models versus working models. Do you want to ask that question for us?
Yeah, it was really more of a point of, there seemed to be the poll that came out and everyone discussing afterwards. There's a difference between the shared model. So in my mind, I had interpreted that as externally sharing, giving to someone. So sending a snapshot model to someone, as opposed to having a centrally located work shared model so that we could work on it as one. Because when we've done it, like we tried Dropbox and all those, and that's beyond horrific to try to do a work shared model, but it works generally pretty fine to do a shared, like to send a model. And so I think there was just a difference of wording that I wanted to clarify as far as a transmittal of a model or the work sharing of a model, because there seemed to be just people, I think, took it their own way and then responded relative to that. So I don't know if it was
absolutely
clear.
No, great catch. Absolutely. And that is a huge issue, right? Especially as Autodesk has transitioned from what they're calling Teams, right, or A360 to B360, and then we have Docs, and then all these different names, and it just changes all over the place. So we definitely don't mean to further confuse. I guess the question that I wanted to really look towards was actually outside of Revit. Yep. Even, if you wanted to send, or even internally, you wanted to get to a PDF, maybe your project team needs to be able to get to content regularly, write meeting minutes and project notes, sure. Project information, different context within the project, whatever it might be, where are those things saved, right? Because as we've all noted, it's definitely a challenge to have everybody within the firm accessing things through VPN or citrusing in or remote desktop in or whatever it might be to be able to get to a server is definitely problematic, right?
Right. And yeah, I think somebody else pointed out like the language and the like Autodesk is pretty horrific as far as their being pedantic, which it needs to be for something like this as far as their language and terminology. Sent numerous problems to them saying, hey, this help thing came up when I searched it for BIM 360, but it's collaboration for Revit, and it's no longer applicable because the entire permission structure has changed, but you guys didn't change or rebrand or fix or pull it offline. It's not even available anymore. Why are you supporting it? Like, why can't it be hidden behind something else? So, and they didn't understand because apparently it makes sense to them. So, and David pointed out in the chat, there's BIM 360, BIM team, or whatever they called it, A360 team that was there, whatever, for a very short brief. And then there's Microsoft Teams, which is what I think we were all holistically mostly referring to when we were saying teams, but it's one more fun thing of just the terminology is encumbering for having conversations even like this, let alone actually trying to get work done.
Yeah, and I actually think you brought up even another point or a great one to discuss about. And really, if anybody's out there that has started doing this, I would like to hear about your experiences too. But what about the work sharing on BIM 360 with all consultants, right? Stop pushing a model to the external groups. I know engineering size wise, my teams are on the Architects BIM 360 sites, and we are doing live work sharing. It's got to start going that way. I know there's a lot of headaches with it, and if you ask engineers, there's a lot of problems with engineers having seen stuff being moved. But is there anybody else out there that they're using this as a full collaboration, everybody together? Because I mean, obviously that's what the full goal is for what Autodesk is trying to do.
Absolutely. And I think in a perfect world, we would all even be live linking, right, to those files that are being published. And, we have some automated tasks that are publishing those every night, and everybody's in that same sandbox playing nicely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of the consumed folder.
Yeah. Which becomes, even kind of leads me to the next step is it's so complicated, right? It's so complicated because then you have to you have to publish it, and then you have to create a package, and then that package gets sent to the shared folder, which then kind of creates, I guess, what we would refer to as a dead link, right? That we can kind of control how often those updates get made. So it's definitely, even for us BIM gurus, right? It's even still a huge learning curve, because as we're trying to explain it to our teams and how they work with consultants and all of that, definitely makes it a challenge.